Hi everyone, I'm Dan Jones and welcome to Interchange. Thank you so very much for joining us. Wow, it's been an interesting week. We have lots to talk about. The people pushing to recall Governor Scott Walker say they're awfully close to having the signatures they need to bring about a new election. So the question may be, who is the candidate they will put up against Scott Walker? We'll talk about the official end of the war in Iraq after nearly 9 deadly and expensive years. And we'll talk about whether the media has already found Ryan Braun guilty of using performance-enhancing drugs. Okay, let me introduce everybody. We have newspaper columnist Joel McNally. Kevin Fischer, longtime broadcaster, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio. Denise Callaway is the coordinator of business and community partnerships for the Milwaukee Public School System. And Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert. Rick Horowitz will be along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, the folks pushing to recall Governor Walker claim they have 500 of the 540,000 signatures they need to force a new election. If that's true, they have a month left to get the rest that they need. So the next big question is, who will be the candidate they find to run against Walker, and who would be the ideal for the Democrats?
I don't know who it's ultimately going to be. I keep hearing that, you know, a lot of the people who have been mentioned are all leaning on Mayor Tom Barrett to run, and that he may be inching closer and closer to it all the time. I didn't expect that necessarily because, you know, after having run a statewide race already, and one that he wasn't real eager, I think, to enter before, and then, you know, to be beaten by this guy who has turned out to be such a disaster, you know, has to be a little disheartening. But I think also Scott Walker and the things that he have done sort of brings out a sort of unusual amount of aggressiveness in Tom Barrett that we don't always see. When you see him speak publicly about what's been going on statewide and what's happening to the cities and local governments as a result of the policies of this governor, he does become very animated and sort of a more aggressive, dynamic Tom Barrett than sort of the laid-back kind of nice guy that he has the reputation of being. I think that he might likely be the candidate. You know, there's still people saying all over the state, why won't Russ Feingold run? You know, that they think he would be the strongest candidate. Kathleen Falk clearly wants to run, and I think she's a good, strong person. I think the best race she ever ran was the first race she ran for governor against Jim Doyle and Tom Barrett, and I thought she was the strongest candidate in that race. Sort of the question right now is, you know, with Tammy Baldwin, a woman from Madison, running for the U.S. Senate, is this the best time for another woman from Madison, although Kathleen also has roots here in Milwaukee? Is this the best time for her to be running in a statewide election?
But Kevin, it's in the paper this morning, Walker has raised millions and millions of dollars.
Of course he has.
Just since
Millionaires
July.
are loading him full of money.
Obviously, not everybody hates him.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of people who aren't signing the recall petitions. There are a lot of people who are suffering from constant campaign mode fatigue, and there are a lot of people who really, really like what he has done and the direction he has moved the state. And yes, he's collected a lot of money, and he has his political machinery in place. He has his campaign team in place, and that's a major advantage he will have over the Democrats. And I agree with Joel. I don't have a clue. I don't know who they're going to run because their top shelf people all say they either aren't running or aren't real enthused. And you really need to have that piece in place because time is of the essence here. You've got a month left in the signature collecting time frame, and then it's go, go, go. And they really need to pick someone. I don't think it's going to be Tom Barrett. This is a union-driven, union-engineered recall election that we're going through, and the unions are going to handpick the person who is going to run against Scott Walker. And I have heard top-ranking Democrat union officials on talk radio in Madison say they're not really all that enthralled with Tom Barrett. So I see a very heavy Democratic primary that's going to be B or C candidates, very, candidates that are not well known, that are either state representatives or state senators who will not give Scott Walker the battle that, say, a Russ Feingold would have.
In your dreams, Kevin.
And Denise, if all of a sudden Feingold says, oh, I changed my mind, I am going to run, could he beat Walker?
I think he could. I think he could. I think that Russ Feingold was known as being his own person, someone who was respected by Democrats and independents and some Republicans. So I think he would stand a good chance of doing this. I'm not as worried about the fact that Democrats haven't selected a candidate for whoever will run against Governor Walker in the recall. I think they're being smart about focusing their efforts first on getting the signatures, because the people are not interested in recalling Governor Walker so Russ Feingold or Tom Barrett or Tim Cullen can run against the governor. They want to recall the governor because they think there are things that he has done to people in this state that makes him recall worthy. So it's not for them a real stumbling block, I think, to say, well, we don't know who the candidate's going to be. That's not their focus right now. Their focus is on getting those votes, and people are not signing those petitions thinking, I'm signing that petition because I'm going to vote for person X. They're signing the petition because they think that the governor needs to be recalled. They'll lose some traction, they'll lose some time, but I think, quite frankly, once whoever the Democrats decide will be their candidate is selected, they're going to be getting, half the money that Governor Walker raised came from out of state. There's going to be a lot of out-of-state money that comes in on both sides, both for Governor Walker and whoever is selected to run against him. There's going to be a lot of out-of-state money because there's a lot at stake in this race, and not just in terms of what's happening in terms of us here in Wisconsin, but nationally. So I don't think it's a big deal that we don't know who it is.
Kevin says something about fatigue, but I think people are really excited. They really are.
If you were running Scott Walker's campaign, would you be worried?
Well, there's always a healthy worry that you have to have anytime you go into an election.
Every incumbent has it.
And in this one, I think that not only is Governor Walker playing it safe, but he's making sure that he's not going to give up his advantage as an incumbent. Tom Barrett's run twice already. The third time he runs has a lot of implications for local elections. At the local level, that would mean he'd have to give up his seat as mayor, practically speaking, politically speaking. Willie Hines has an opponent in his upcoming election. He would be the person as Common Council president that would step up into the mayoralship.
See, I think it's interesting that Jan Biddle is announcing to be an opponent in Willie Hines' district.
Right.
I don't think he thinks Willie's going to be there.
Well, for a variety of reasons, I think you're absolutely right, because there are all kinds of rumors that are circulating out there, and it's a calculated risk on his part. And the unions would have to agree that this is someone that they would take on, and I just can't see where Alderman Hines has fallen out of favor with the union community. All that being said, you then get into the next tier of candidates. You can rule out Herb Cole, who I think is the only Democratic candidate possible that could take on Scott Walker, match him dollar for dollar, and then put up the kind of credibility in the statewide voter community that would lead to a win. All the rest of them, I think they have serious flaws, and I think that Scott Walker is prepared to address that. And if the election occurs during a time when there's no other election, I think he has the overwhelming advantage.
All right, next topic. The United States officially ended its military involvement in Iraq this week. 9 years, 4,500 American casualties, hundreds of billions of dollars, and an Iraqi government that's still in chaos. Can you say, Denise, that we won this war?
No, I don't think you can say that we won it. I think when we take a look at wars like the two wars that we were engaged in most recently and Vietnam, these are not wars that you win. It's not a traditional kind of war that you're fighting. I think it's fair for people to ask whether or not this is something that was worthwhile. And I feel terrible even raising that question because of the tens of thousands of young people, here in the United States who served and who, were injured, and forever their lives will be changed and never be the same. Almost 5,000 young men and women in this country who died in Iraq fighting this war, and the hundreds of thousands of killed and injured Iraqis. But I think we do have to ask, not so much did we win it, but what changed because of what we did?
Is the
what
world
changed to the better?
I
mean, I don't know that we can. Well, I don't think it's just whether or not the world's a better place. I think it's a question of whether or not the Iraqi people are better off than they were now. We're looking at a country now where you've got 3 different ethnic groups that before the cots that our soldiers slept in are cold are starting to already jockey for position and power. I think it's a country that we are leaving in some ways that is more unstable than when we entered that country.
But is the world a safer place? Our primary concern wasn't the people of Iraq, it was the people of the United States.
Well, I think that's a problem.
That part of the world is a much safer place, and we here in America are safer because we intervened in Iraq. I think we respectfully have to commend our American forces, as Defense Secretary Leon Panetta did this week, when he told our troops that they helped the Iraqi people turn tyranny aside, and that they gave the hope and promise of peace and prosperity to future generations. Our American soldiers brought us victory in Iraq. They vanquished the brutal, repressive army of Saddam Hussein. They defeated radical Islamist insurgents. And while they were there, they gave tremendous protection to Muslim women and children. Because of their influence, because of their inspiration, 750,000 Iraqi citizens volunteered to be part of their military and police force. And never before in history has that part of the world had an elected representative government. They do now, and they are much safer. And we have is there still violence and chaos over there? Yes, but we definitely have made an impact there and have turned that area of the world around. And now we have allies there in a sector of the world that we really need some friends.
We cannot say that that country is safer when you take a look at the number of car bombs that go off every day, the number of people who are killed, that it is not a country that is safer for. You have average Iraqi citizens who are afraid to leave their homes. You have the Sunni and the Shiites still fighting each other, and now the Kurds engaged and involved. It is not a country that's safe. You listen to the soldiers who were leaving Iraq and ask them, as they were asked by reporters during the time, the past week when the withdrawal was taking place, whether or not they thought this was a country that would be able to stand on its own 2 feet now. And I did not hear one soldier say, yes, I have absolute confidence.
Well, there's a surprise that you did hear
that.
one soldier on CNN commend our military effort. But
I'm
not going to sit here.
It was
I'm
really
not
talking
going to sit here
about
on
the reality.
television
It's
and
talking about the
suggest that our
reality of what's
military
happening there.
Sacrificed and died in vain. I say it's a victory, and I only wish our commander-in-chief would use the V word.
Would we have needed a draft?
Mission accomplished. How's that?
Would we have needed a draft and 3 times as many soldiers to have won this war in a few years rather than 9 years long?
No, I think it took 9 years because there's a lot of unconventional warfare that had to take place in that country. You have a country that has a tremendous amount of oil reserves. You have a country that, as Denise has pointed out, has multiple factions that are ethnic-based. You've got the force that was helping to nurture democracy now coming out, and it's left up, frankly, to the Iranian people to have the courage to continue nurturing democracy in their own country, utilizing now their own resources to do that. Poorly trained military that has improved somewhat, but they also have the danger that's posed to them by the Iranian government that is as unstable as any that I've seen short of North Korea in another part of Asia. So
have we given,
it's problematic.
Have we given Iraq the gift of democracy?
Oh, God, I've been sitting here just disgusted by some of the things I've just heard. Denise does not have to apologize at all for feeling bad about the waste and the loss of American lives and Iraqi lives in a war that did not have to take place, in a war that did not have to happen. We went into this war to get rid of weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. It was a lie from the beginning. The war was a lie from the beginning. Those American troops who absolutely, fought bravely and sacrificed and all that, and no one takes that away from them. It was a commitment of those lives, American lives, and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives, from a president who built a war on a lie and went into it eagerly. Anytime we go into wars eagerly, we know there's something sick going on. A war should always be a last resort. Kevin said something about we're safer and the world's safer from these weapons that didn't exist. That is absurd. I'll tell you who is safer. Halliburton has made hundreds of billions of dollars off of this war. A war which was executed by a president and a vice president in the pocket of Halliburton. And as a matter of fact, they went in there to put electricity into Iraq, which still doesn't exist 9 years later. But they got hundreds of billions of dollars to presumably build that infrastructure that they didn't do. The corrupt people that made profits off this war and took American lives and took Iraqi lives. It is a shame. I think it is amazing that Barack Obama has managed to end this war within a couple of years of his taking office, a war that was the previous administration that started it, could not end it, and despite the Republicans' best efforts, they have not been able to bring any criticism to Barack Obama for ending this war. It is long past time that this war should have been over.
The real shame about this war is that it caused us to take our eyes off of Afghanistan. And if indeed we were really focused on addressing the issues and getting to those folks who caused 9/11 to happen, that's where it took place. Because we put so much resources into a war in a country where there was no connection with what happened to 9/11, it has caused us to spend. It has caused us to spend and I would say expend a lot of human capital in terms of lost lives and a lot of money that could have gone into building up that region in ways that were much more positive. And our own economy. And the problem is, because of that, how long did it take us to get, how long did it take the president to get Osama bin Laden? 9 years. Why? Because we're spending our resources in Iraq, in a place where there was nothing to do with 9/11, where there were no weapons of mass destruction. And it has taken our eyes off the problem that exists in Afghanistan, which, by the way, as our troops are leaving Iraq, the problems still exist in Afghanistan. If we would have spent more time, money, and energy where the real problem was, that's how we would all be safer.
All right. Well, let's spend a few minutes talking about Ryan Braun. Has the media already found him guilty as charged of using performance-enhancing drugs? And is there any chance that he will be the first baseball player to win appeal on his case? I predict he will be the first.
I hope he will be the first. I actually believe the guy is innocent of intentionally using any performance-enhancing drugs. And the fact that the Brewers are willing to stand behind him at this point, I still believe that if he were truly guilty, there would be some outward distance that would be placed between he and the ball club. He signed on with the Brewers long-term, taking what arguably is less salary that he could have bargained for a long-term deal to be in this market. And the offset would be that he would make more money off of any marketing appeal that he would have as a star player in the league. I don't think he would risk all that, to be perfectly honest. I also know that the way these star players are continually scrutinized, he's not dumb enough to put himself at that kind of risk. So I just have to believe on the face of it that he's innocent. I hope that he can demonstrate his innocence, that it all works out in his favor, and that ultimately it would work out in the favor of baseball as well.
Kevin, I can't believe he would pass every single test he's taken since he started in baseball, and then all of a sudden, boom, fail one.
I understand that, and you have a studio full of Brewers fans here, so we're not exactly unbiased. But we don't have any evidence to suggest that the stories we're hearing are false. Ryan Braun's a good guy. Ryan Braun wouldn't do that. Ryan Braun wouldn't risk his career. The Brewers are standing behind him. I just can't believe Ryan Braun would do this, and it could be a false positive. Well, you know, there are good people who intentionally or unintentionally sometimes do really dumb things, do stupid things. And I'd say the odds are against him on this one. And if he did indeed cheat during a playoff run in the hopes of not only enhancing his own ability, but helping his team, I think the punishment, Major League Baseball talks a good game. Well, they don't even talk a good game about policing themselves. They don't police themselves very well. If you want to really send a message and do something about the sport, if he did cheat, and that's underline if, well then forget the 50-game suspension. You also have to take that MVP award away, which I know there's no precedent to do that, but I think that would be the proper punishment if he cheated.
You know, you have big-time lawyers helping all these athletes, and you read the articles, okay, there have been 12 appeals, and no player has been successful.
Well, when I saw that there had been 12 cases is not exactly a huge population, you know, to judge from. After, you know, years of turning the other way and intentionally not paying attention to the steroid use in the game until it got so far out of hand that, you know, baseball was forced to pay attention.
Because Congress got involved.
Yeah, but you know, they knew what was going on. We've talked about that before. They had to know what was going on before. But the problem is to overcompensate. They came up with this rule that says it doesn't matter whether the player even knew, you know, that he was doing anything wrong. You know, if our lab tests show something, you know, that's it. I mean, there is no appeal of that. That doesn't make any sense to me, especially since the guy voluntarily took another test immediately that showed he was okay. You know,
and another after that.
Yeah. So you know, if in fact that the test was so, you know, soaring in testosterone that it, you know, blew up the charts, a test taken immediately afterwards then said, you know, no, there's nothing there. I do think that in many ways Ryan Braun has already lost. I mean, his name is associated with performance-enhancing drugs, and that was based on rumors from one website, and you know, before any, you know, facts. There weren't any facts that it was based on.
All right. You know, there are holiday traditions that are handed down lovingly from generation to generation, and then there are others that are more like frozen pipes. And speaking of frozen pipes, I understand there's something almost musical going on right now over in Studio B. Yes, friends, it's
Barocking around the Christmas tree on your worthless real estate. Try to forget the misery and the unemployment rate. Barocking along the campaign trail with elections on the way. Everyone tread so carefully till Inauguration Day. Ozone's not a problem, put the kibosh on Plan B. Don't give in to Labor's hype line, let's delay that Keystone Pipeline. We've got Bachmann, we've got Huntsman, there's Santorum and Paul, just a few of the endless contenders. Polls are climbing, polls are dropping, watch them rise, watch them fall, but from every TV set you hear, on the third day of Christmas, Rick Perry gave to me. Herman Cain gave it quite a run. Sounded fine with his 999, but he quickly came undone. Herman Cain loved his cool chapeau. Set new trends with his lady friends, but the missus didn't know. These three things Rick Perry would close, this and that, and one more like those. Well, it's 2012 Anno Domini, and they're through with Willard Romney. Those conservatives start to crow. We said no, we said no, we said no. His positions are truly vexing, and he's really good at flexing. He's electable, they're like, so? They say no, they say no, they say no. Silent Newt, holy Newt, bites his tongue, bursts his suit. Cuddly grandpa as sweet as can be, family values with wife number 3, creeps back into the race, can't wipe that smirk off his face. Oh, little town of Occupy. Ah, forget it. People watch, don't be bitter, send your crotch straight to Twitter. You played us for fools, you broke all the rules, walking in a wiener wonderland. Hark, the herald angels sing, what became of Arab Spring? Hosni out, Gaddafi dead, people protest starts to spread. Tyrants face their final hour, holding tightly to their power. Bullets fly and tear gas rains, Middle Eastern growing pains. Tear gas rains and bullets fly, they'll have their freedom by and by.
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. First, a programming note, you might want to check out the PBS show Need to Know, which airs on Channel 10 at 7:30 tonight, Friday. It's a program that talks about the budgetary problems being forced by big city mayors. They focus on Tom Barrett here in Milwaukee. Also, just a heads up that we will be off for the next 2 weeks, so stay warm, enjoy the holidays, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.